Hello guys, my name is Destiny and welcome back to the first tutorial in the Netflix clone series. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and talk about the template and some basic configurations before we go ahead and start working on the main project itself. So I have already created out the template, so you guys don't have to sit back and watch me create it. So I already did this before actually starting to shoot this video, so you guys won't have to sit back and watch me do it. But if you need a tutorial on how I did it, you could just drop a comment in the comment section, and I'm definitely going to make a tutorial showing how to do it. So when I come over to this folder here that says Netflix clone and I open up this template, you can see if I open up index.html, this is what it already looks like. So this is what it already looks like from here. Then we have the login working already, we have the sign up working already, and we have the movie list. I think, let me see, we have the movie detail. Let's open this up. So we have the movie detail, we also have the movie list, the place where we can list out movies, and we also have the profile create section, the section that we can use to create a profile. And we also have the profile list where we list out profiles, just like, you know, just like the normal Netflix. And we have show movie, the place where we're gonna play the movie. So this is where the movie is gonna be playing. And finally, okay, I already showed you guys the sign up. So these are all the templates that we're gonna be using. And for the styling, everything is stored over here in assets. So that's pretty much what we want to do. So we're going to go ahead now and open up the command prompt so that we can start making a new project and creating new apps. But before that, I want to close off all this tab that I've got over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now the first thing you want to do is open up command prompt. You can come over here and type out command prompt, or if you have git cmd, you can also open it up. You could use anyone, it's totally the same thing. So when we open this up now, what you want to do is simply go to the desktop. So we're going to say cd into desktop, just like that. And we want to make a new file in the desktop, but in my desktop I already have this file called Netflix clone. Okay, so after we cd into desktop, the next thing we want to do is make a new folder on the desktop, and we'll make the folder with this command mkdir, which stands for make directory, and let's just name it netprj. So net project, or let's just say net clone. So I'm not going to name it Netflix clone because I already have some named Netflix clone over there. So I'm just going to name it net clone, and I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. Now I'm going to go into the new folder that I just made, which is net clone. So when in this folder, we can go ahead and clear out things with CLS. So when in this folder, what I want to do is simply create a Django one more folder that's going to store the Django project. So when you want to do that, just make mkdir again, then we're going to call this Netflix. So yeah, we're going to call that Netflix. Then we want to go into Netflix, and inside Netflix, that's where we're now going to make the project. So we're going to say Django-admin start project. So start project, then we're going to name it Netflix prj. So that's what we want to name our project, Netflix prj. And you cannot use this command Django-admin if you don't already have Django installed on your machine. So if I come over to this command prompt, let me break off from the server and CLS. So if I pip freeze, let me show you guys that I already have Django installed over here. So we give this a couple times, it should go ahead and load up all the packages that I already have. Let me say this. Okay, let's actually check out the Django before we go ahead and continue from here. So let's see what's going on with this. Okay, as you can see, it lists out all the packages that I have, and over here you can see that I have Django. This is it. I have Django 3.1, so that's why I'm able to use Django-admin start project. Now if you don't have Django, simply do pip install Django. That is, if you don't have Django installed on your virtual machine already. So I'd also recommend you use a virtual environment because it helps keep your documents and your project, the certain projects you're working at the time, secured. For some reasons it's cool, but I won't be using it in this video. If you don't know how to set it up, just check out one of my tutorials. I usually use it on all my tutorials, so by now you should be able to know how it all works. So we created this project Netflix prj. Now we want to go in there, we're going to say cd into Netflix prj, And in case you don't know the meaning of cd, it means change directory. So in Netflix PRJ, now we're going to create a new app. So we're going to say python manage.py start app, and we're going to name this Netflix app. So I named this Netflix PRJ and Netflix app just because of one thing, and that's because I want to keep track of the one that is the app and the one that is the project. So whenever I see Netflix app, I'm gonna know that this is where my views, my models, and everything is gonna be. When I see my Netflix PRJ, I'm gonna know that that's where my settings, my main URLs, my WSGI is gonna be. So when we make start app, then we hit enter on our keyboard. Then let's give it a second or two. It should go ahead and load up successfully. Okay, so it's loaded up. Now we can go into the app, Netflix app. Okay, we are in the app now. So in this app, what we can either do is run a server. So let's firstly run our server so you see what it looks like. Python manage.py run server. Okay, it says this can't open that. Okay, so if we want to run our server, let's go back once and let's do python manage.py run server again. Okay, so this is saying now that we can't run our server in the app, but we can run it in the project. So if you want to run your server, make sure that you are in the project folder before you run your server. So after this, now we can come over here and head over to port 8000. And what do you notice? Django is successfully installed. So now let's head over to our desktop and see the projects that we've created. So now come over to net clone. Then you're going to see this one that says Netflix. We open it up. We see Netflix PRJ. We open that up. Then we can see the Netflix app that we created. We see the manage.py. We see our database and we see our project. So we're going to make use of all these files right now. So what I want to do from over here is just close out one of the command prompts. Okay, I think it's already closed off. So yeah, it's already closed off. Now what I want to do is open up a code editor. So in terms of code editor, you can use whatever code editor you prefer. I prefer PyCharm or Visual Studio Code, but if you're running on a slow machine, I would recommend you go with Visual Studio Code. It's really lightweight and fast, and it also has some really cool features. But PyCharm is like a heavyweight type of, I don't know, IDE. Yeah, it's not a code editor, it's an IDE, Python IDE. I'd recommend you use PyCharm or Visual Studio. Slower machine, go with Visual Studio Code. So over here now, what I'm gonna do is just open up this folder. I'm gonna open it up, and Netflix, I'm gonna open up Netflix, this one. I'm gonna open it up in here. Just drag and hover here and place it just like that. But if you can place it like this, you can also come over to file, then open. Let me show you guys where the file is. You're gonna come over to this file over here, and then you come over to open folder. Then you locate where you dropped out the folder. So with this now, this is all we've got over here. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and start working out with the main configurations and everything that we want to do. So we're gonna come over to the Netflix PRJ, and we want to open up settings.py, and we want to open up urls.py. We're gonna work with these two things right now, and we also want to open up Netflix app. So the first thing we want to do in settings.py is just configure the template and the static files and all that. So I'm gonna say import OS just above here. We're gonna say import OS, and that's simply gonna help us work with configuring the templates. So if you want to configure the template, you want to come over to this template section over here, and in the directories, what you're gonna say is os.path.join, as simple as that. Then we're gonna join the base directory with template. So what does this mean? This means that in our base directory, which is here, which is this place here now, this place that we have the Netflix app, the Netflix PRJ, DBS, and manage.py, we're gonna have a folder named templates here. So that's what this means. We are joining the base directory, which is here, with templates. So we are joining templates to the base directory, rather, that's the right word to use. So when that is done, the next thing I want to do is just come down a bit, and we want to configure some files over here. So we need to configure files like static URL and a whole lot of files. So let's go ahead and start doing that. Okay, so to go ahead and configure the static files and the media files, what we want to do is, we already have static URL. So the next thing we're gonna do is call static files underscore theirs, just like that. And we're gonna set this to the same os dot path. That should be a lowercase os dot path dot join. You remember how we did it at the top. Then we're gonna join the base directory with templates. I think we already did that at the top. Okay, so we're gonna say static files there's whereas the path to join, then we're gonna join it with static. So we're also gonna create a folder named static down there. So after joining the static, now we need the media URL. So we're gonna say media underscore URL, and we're gonna set this to media, just like this. So this is gonna help us upload photos and videos and all that. So with media URL, we also need media root. I think media underscore roots. Let's get it right, media roots, and this should be just like os.path.join, just like we did above. So we're gonna say os.path.join, and we should join this with base directory and media. So by now you should understand what this is gonna do. It's also gonna have, there should be an underscore over here, so there's also gonna be a media file at the base directory there. So with this now, we can go ahead and okay, let's put the login underscore redirect underscore URL. This should go to login, or should it go to index? Yeah, let's say it should go to the index, but for now we don't have all this yet, so let's just leave it blank. And we also need logout redirects URL, and we also need login URL. So login URL should definitely go to login. For now, let's just leave this the way it is, and let's comment this out too. So for now, these are the main things that we need. So over here in our base, we want to create a new folder, and we're gonna call it templates. We create a new folder, we call it templates. We're gonna create a new one in it, and let's call it index.html. So we created a new one, we called it index.html. So now when we say hello and come over here to the Django, you remembered, and refresh, what do you want to see? Nothing. That's because we have no URL that's gonna locate this hello. So what are we supposed to do now? Let's just close out all this, but before that, in the settings.py, let's install our app so we don't forget that we have an app. So we're gonna say Netflix app, just like that, and add a comma. So in Netflix app, next thing we're gonna do is close out this and open up the Netflix app. So this is it. Now in the Netflix app, we're gonna create a new file, and we're gonna call it urls.py. So urls.py, and this one that we created, we need to join it to the main urls.py, and the main urls.py is in the Netflix prj. So note there are two URLs now. There is this URL over here that's in the app, and there is this one in the project. So what we want to do is simply import include over here so that we can include the one in the app. Then we're gonna say path and want it to be an empty string like that. Then we're gonna say include Netflix app dot URLs, just like that. So with Netflix app dot URLs, if you come over here now and refresh, nothing is still gonna happen. So what we need to do is come over to the URLs here, and we need to say from Django.urls import path, and we also need to say from .views, let's import home, something like that. And we want to give this app a name. Let's say app name should be equal to Netflix app, something like that. And we're gonna say URL patterns should be equal to path. Then we're gonna have an empty string, just like that. Then we're gonna have home, and let's give it a name. The name too is gonna be home, something like that. So if you don't understand what's going on here, it's just simple basic URL mapping. So what's going on here is we give this app a name so that we can use this like a namespace, something like that. Then we imported the views that we don't have already. We are still going to create it. When you come over to views.py, we see we don't have nothing here, so we're still going to create it, but we imported it already ahead of time. Then we define the simple URL pattern over here that's gonna help us locate the view, and the view is gonna be the one that's going to be over here. If you don't understand, don't worry, everything is gonna be clear to you. And if you're a Django beginner, I actually don't really recommend you take this video. I'd recommend you take some basic Django tutorial courses already that I have on my channel before coming over here, because this one is quite advanced. just quite. But if you follow along, we can say explain out some things to you. So with this now, I'm gonna copy this view, come over to views.py, and I'm gonna define a new view. So let's say define view. It's gonna take in request as usual. Then the next thing that we want to do is just return render, and it should take in request. And now it's gonna take in index.html, just like that. So with all this now, let's see if our server is still running. Yeah, sure, it's still running. Now let's come over here and refresh. Okay, let's give this like a sec or two. Or I think we should break out of our server. So let's break out of our server and CLS to clear things out. Then let's run the server again. Okay, so with this now, let's come over here and refresh. Okay, as you can see, it's working perfectly well. But now it says template does not exist at index.html. But with this now, I want to show you guys another way that we can use to create a template. So when we come over here now, we can come over to the app. You remember the app? And there, what we need to do is right click, and we're going to create a new folder there, and we're going to call the folder templates. And also inside the template, we're going to create a new folder again, and we're going to call it the name of the app, which is Netflix app. And finally, in the Netflix app, then we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it index.html, just like that. So now when we come over here and refresh, let's see, this should be gone by now. Let's refresh. Okay, so what we need to do now is come over to the views, and let's make sure we call Netflix app / index.html, so that when we refresh here, it should be gone. Okay, the spelling, yes. Okay, so as you can see, it's working totally fine. Now the error is gone. Now with this method that I just showed you, now you don't actually need this. You remember this over here? If you get rid of this, everything is still gonna work fine. So let's say we want to get rid of it, and get rid of it just like that. Now come over here again and refresh. Let's see. Okay, what's wrong with our server is down. Run our server again. It says there is an error over here. Let's see, what's the error? Let's get rid of that. Okay, so let's run our server again. Okay, so with this now, when we refresh, what do you notice? It still works perfectly fine. We don't actually need that os.path.join base directory to templates. We don't actually need it. So with this now, everything is working totally fine. So I told you guys that we already built out templates, so we don't have to do it again manually. Now what I'm gonna do is just hop over to where we have the template, and I'm just gonna copy it. So we have let me head over to my desktop and come over to Netflix clone, come over to template, and as you can see, we have index.html. So what I can just do over here is open this with Notepad. So let me open this with Notepad, and I'm going to copy everything in here just like this. Copy everything in there and come over to index.html in our Visual Studio and paste it. So with this now, when I come over to my browser and refresh, what do you notice? We see all this now. So with all this, what we need to do is just start things up, and everything should look good. So if you want to start this up, what you want to do is come over to Visual Studio, and at the base directory where we have this templates folder, let's create a new folder there, and we're going to call it static. So we call it static, not in the template, but in the main directory. Okay, I think I see what was going on with this. The template wasn't in the main directory, but it should be now. Let's see. Okay, so with this now static, what we need to do is come over here and let's see templates. We need to take this assets and put it into the static. So we're gonna drag it and drop it in the static, just like that. So when we drop this in the static, now what we need to do is come over here to the index.html, and what we need to do is just come below here, and we're gonna load static. So we're gonna say load static, just like that. Now let's refresh and see if anything happens. Nope, nothing happens. So the next thing I want to do is come over here and call our static file. So as you can see, manually we are loading the CSS by going to asset/style.css, but we need to do this the Django way. So we're gonna cut this, then open up template tags just like that, and we're gonna call static, open up a string and paste that in there. just like that. So now if we refresh, what do you notice? It says static takes at least one argument passed to file. Okay, just refresh again and that's gone. So what do you notice now? Everything is working totally fine as expected. So now the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and make the logos and the images to work. So for the logo to work, we also need to do the same thing for it, but I don't think this is going to work due to some reasons. But for now, let's just see that. Okay, yeah, it's going to work definitely. Now for the background, come over here, copy this, and we should call this static, paste that in there, refresh. Now it works. And now for all those other images, we should also do the same thing. So there is an image over here, there is an image over here too, and I think there is an image over here too. Image here, and another image here. So I'm gonna say static. This is the ending, this is the ending, this is the ending. Then I'm gonna break it off like that. So now when we refresh, let's see, refresh. Okay, now as you can see, the images are loading up. Now everything is working perfectly fine for here, for this one. Now let's go ahead and configure, let's say, the sign in. Okay, so if you want to configure the sign in, that means we need to come over here and create a new file, and we're gonna call it let's say login.html. yes, login.html, and we need to create a view for it. We need to create a view before we actually go ahead and start making it work. So what we need to do is come over to login.html, or this is what I'm going to do for now. I'm going to leave out the login.html. I'm going to show you guys the way to actually set things up from other videos, but for now we want to create a base.html where we're going to inherit from other files. So if you've been following all of my tutorials, you're going to know that I really love doing this, because it's like, it helps us reduce codes. It helps us don't repeat ourselves in a whole lot of places. For example, you see the footer over here, we want to leave it, and the header, we want to leave it. So what we're going to do is just come over here, and we're going to get rid of every other thing inside this that ends in the footer. So we get rid of this now, and what we need to do is open up a block content. So block content, this is pretty much where every other thing is gonna sit on our site. And if you're a beginner, I'm sure you would not understand this, but if you follow up my other tutorials, definitely you should understand how everything works. So when we do this now, this is it. So what we need to do is simply head over to our index. Now if we refresh this, it's still working fine, but when we head over to our index.html and we remove everything in the nav, so let's see everything from here, we get rid of it. Now when we refresh, what do you notice? The nav is gone and the footer is still there. So we need to remove everything in the footer too. What do you notice? Let's see, refresh, the footer is gone. So now what we need to do is extend from this, and in order to do that, you need to come over to your index.html, and at the top of the file you want to open up template tags, and you're going to say extends. We want to extend from base.html, or rather let's say from Netflix app / base.html. So now when we refresh this, okay, let's see. So what do you notice? It works fine now, but we can't see our contents again, like the things that say it, watch now and all that. We can't see it. That's because we need to wrap these files here with block content. So block content, and over here too we need to wrap this with end block content. So let me explain what this is. Now if you refresh, you see it would be there. Let's refresh this again. Okay, what's going on here? And block content, let's say invalid line expected, and block content context. Okay, yeah, that's supposed to be content, not context. Okay, so as you can see, it's working now. So let me explain what this does. Now you remember in the base.html we have these two things over here that say block content and end block content. Now when we extend, everything that's over here will come over to the page automatically, but in the new page that we extended from, any other new thing that we want to show, like this stuff, now we're gonna pass it in between block contents like this. So over here, see, we're gonna pass it in between block contents, and at the base there is this block content over here. So anything we pass into block content is what's going to show up on our site. So that's how it works. Hopefully you understand how everything works over here. So with this, now we have set up our files, we set up the home page, set up images to load up and all that. For now, we don't have media URLs. We are still gonna set it up in this video, but this video is becoming a little bit long. I don't really want to make it long. I'm just gonna end it off from here. Then the next video, we're gonna go ahead and start off from configuring our database models and all that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did, do not forget to drop a like and consider subscribing if you love the channel. And I hope I'll see you in the next video. Stay tuned.